Path of Exile. Now that's a title that isn't screwing around. You start up the game, you get told you're a heretic, and then you are exiled, whereupon most of the rest of the game is a linear path that you walk down, killing everything and everyone that doesn't want to talk to you, and half of the things that do want to talk to you. Let's rewind a bit, go back to the beginning. What is Path of Exile? Path of Exile is a Diablo-like game that is available for free on Steam. Sorry, I think I stuttered there. Path of Exile is Diablo, free on Steam. It followed Diablo around and tracked all their habits, stole their passport and social security card, and started their life fresh in a backwater town nobody's ever heard of. Path of Exile came out about a year after Diablo 3 and has gone from strength to strength since then, having been free at release and surprisingly still being free today. So let's get started on KingWillPower's Regal review. How good or bad is Path of Exile, and why? The graphics are good. Do they blow me out of the water? No, but they don't need to for the game to be good. When I play an ARPG, I'm not there to get blown away by the beauty of the landscape, because usually the landscape is doing its best to throw a million things at me and try to turn my guy into a red stain on the ground. And I'm doing my best to turn them into a multicolored heap of disconnected body parts. What's especially satisfying to me in this game is the audio design. Attacks sound meaty. Spells have that whoosh and sparkle and thunder that gives that actual sense of magical occurrences rather than being a guy that magic is happening around, not to or because of. There's a bit of ambient sound and music always present that complements the gameplay sound without overpowering it. I left the volumes at default, and so far I haven't had to turn one down to hear any of the rest. The music, fighting, and speech are all distinguishable from each other, even in the most intense boss fights. More importantly, the characters, of which I've tried a few so far, know when to shut up and fight. There's very rarely a witty quip from the character I'm controlling, which is a welcome change from Diablo 3, where I muted the entire game just to not have to listen to my character say the same voice lines over and over every time they do anything. You're in the middle of a fight with 30 zombies and their pet dog and their magic-using granny. Do you have time to say something witty? No, you don't, and that's because you aren't the chosen one in this story. There's no special blood flowing through your veins, you're not fated by prophecy to save or destroy the world, you have no skills that anyone else can't have if they worked hard enough at it. All your equipment is scavenged or crafted from the scraps of the land. Regardless of your background, your story starts off with you being exiled by the local theocracy to the cursed land of Rayclast by High Templar Dominus, a man carefully crafted to be an insufferable, self-righteous dickhead. From then on, both you and your character have a strong driving motivation for fighting on, finding Dominus and killing him with conviction, determination, and skill, and the story progresses naturally from there. There are some things that are frustrating about the design, the most annoying of which for me was lockstep. The game is always online and has two ways of dealing with lag: lockstep mode and predictive mode. Lockstep mode, the default mode, locks the movement of your character and enemies to the server's reckoning of their position in real time, and what this did was make it stutter and flicker like the game engine was having an allergic reaction to the very concept of movement. Even though my server ping never exceeded 50 while I was playing, it did this constantly, and I was almost ready to give up on it until I found predictive mode, which made the game overall very smooth. Maybe once or twice an hour it would rubber band my character back a few steps to match what the server thought I was doing to what I was actually doing. Turn predictive mode on and don't look back. The second design flaw, in my opinion, is the lack of an inventory sorting feature. In a game that's primarily about looting, storing, and crafting with a billion different items, the lack of a sorting system makes storing and finding the items you want an incredible time sink, which definitely takes away from the fun of the game. Those design flaws are not enough for me to mark it down any, though, because this looks and feels like a game that the developers cared about making. New Zealand, you should be very proud of Grinding Gear Games. They have a work ethic that comes across very clearly. 3 out of 3 crowns for excellence in game design. The gameplay of Path of Exile is simple and complex at the same time. It's very easy to pick up, but there's a lot of complexity involved in mastering it, and what's powerful and what isn't is constantly shifting due to balance changes and the reworking of how skills interact with each other. There's one upgrade map for all 7 characters, much like Final Fantasy X, and theoretically any character can reach most any node on the map. It's easier for each character to reach the nodes near them, but that, along with the addition of the gems that can be socketed into the upgrade map itself, and the easy but not instant accessibility of upgrade resets, means there's a lot more variety available in viable builds. Each character except the Scion, who starts in the middle of the upgrade map and has to be unlocked through gameplay, has a bit of specialization to them, and 3 advanced classes to pick from later in the game for further specialization. Just in the passive skills on the upgrade map, there is a mind-blowing amount of choice available in how you want to build your character. Active skills come in the form of gems, which have to be socketed into gear in order to access their powers. Without gems, each character only comes with their basic attack, and no more are gained by leveling up. Skill gems upgrade by earning experience along with your character, and you have to have the right level and statistics to be able to use them. Along with the skill gems come support gems, which work by modifying the skills in connected gems. I ended up on my main character, a Deadeye Ranger named Cranberry Red Bull, using a skill that shoots poison arrows that make poisonous creep on the ground, and made them do more poison damage, and split into multiple arrows. With just a couple gems, I was able to turn my ranger from a simple archer to a plague-throwing monstrosity that can turn the entire screen into a biohazard zone at a moment's notice, and I couldn't be happier with it. You can put any gem into any socket of the right color at any time, but that piece of gear can only be used if you meet the requirements for not only the item, but all the gems in it as well. This means you can't shove overpowered gems on a brand new character and blaze through the early game, which to my mind is a good thing. Grinding for gear is 70% of a game like this, so skipping through the early part of it undoes a lot of the point of repeated gameplay. This is the kind of game that you sit down and grind through for hours at a time. Put something good on Netflix or turn the game audio down low and listen to good music while you blow through the trash enemies and bash your head against the wall trying to beat a hard boss or encounter. The complexity is a blessing to this game, but it's also a deterrent to the person first encountering the game. It'll scare away people who aren't sure they're ready for a slog through a wiki or guide sites to try to figure out what they're even supposed to do. The gameplay is good, and earns 2 out of 3 crowns for keeping things fresh both because of and despite the amount of options available to customize things. This segment is a little different from how things go in a lot of reviews, and since this is the first one, I'll elaborate a little bit. On games that cost money, this section will be value, and it'll be based both on the value of the time of review, disregarding sales, and the value at the time of the game's release. Also, the availability and price of the DLC for the game will be taken into account. On games that are free, this section will be freedom, and it'll be based upon how free the game actually is, in terms of microtransactions, optional subscriptions, pay-to-play and pay-to-win features, and the restrictions of free players versus premium players. Path of Exile is a free game, and it's actually free. You can download it and play all the content available without putting any money into it whatsoever. There are microtransactions, but the vast majority of them are cosmetic in nature. The only ones I could find that make gameplay easier are stash tabs, which give you an increased amount of storage space for unused items and currency. I haven't managed to fill out the 4 that every account gets, but with one character at least half of the way through the main storyline, I can definitely see how extra stash tabs will become necessary as the game goes on. A bundle of 6 extra regular stash tabs, when paid for with the microtransaction currency of the game, known as points, is $15. There's also specialty tabs for certain items, such as maps, divination cards, essences, and fragments available. The theoretical limit on the number of tabs an account can have is over 64,000, and I don't even want to think about how much money it would cost to get up there. From asking a few friends who've played the game for a while, getting the 6 Dash Tab bundle when it's on sale seems to be the most popular move, and to put a few dollars into a game like this after 100 or 200 hours of maxing out a couple characters isn't all that bad a deal for the amount of enjoyment to be gleaned from it. However, as a free game, I can't give full marks to any game that advertises as free but has available in the microtransaction shop a deal that makes gameplay easier in any way. 2 out of 3 crowns for freedom. Now for the important part. The special spark. The X factor. The thing that can turn an okay game into a good game, or a good game into a great game. Like Rhythm and Soul, you either have it or you don't. It's the thing that keeps you coming back for more on replayable games, and the thing that leaves a lasting impression in your soul on games that aren't satisfying to replay. And I gotta tell you, this game has it. The increasing challenge of the campaign and the endgame content, the temptation of ever-increasing stats, and the staggering variety of skill and gear builds available to try and push with means that each session of this game that I've played has ended not when I was bored with it, but when I was too hungry, thirsty, or tired to keep going and needed to take a break. It's an addictive game, and even if I end up spending some microtransaction money on it, I'll still have gotten more fun out of it than I have a lot of games that you pay for up front. 1 crown out of 1 for the special spark, which means a total score of 8 out of 10 crowns. A solid game that's well worth playing. I highly recommend Path of Exile to anyone and everyone. And that is KingWillPower's Regal review of Path of Exile.